So, hello everyone watching. This is gonna be the fourth episode of Talking Music. Today, I have with us the talented musician, an exceptional artist who has played guitar, recorded guitar on several albums so far, and he's now becoming slowly a legend on YouTube. I have here with me today Alain Ibrahim. Hello, Alain.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good. Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you.
You too,
Uh,
man. Thank you.
I have a lot of questions for you, today. But of course, as usual, we're gonna start along history. We're gonna go along history and start from the first day you picked up a guitar, and the first day you listened to a rock track and you got interested. Tell me
Oof,
about that.
that's really history. I remember I used to go to a friend's house and they had like a classical guitar laying around. And I don't know why I just was interested in that instrument. So I used to always pick it up and like spend 10, 15 minutes. And I don't know what I used to do, but I used to just pick it up. So I guess it started back then. And then around 10 years old, I remember I was doing my homework on the table and I was watching TV at the same time. And there was a video clip for Avril Lavigne and she was playing the guitar. And I remember thinking, that's really cool. I want to learn that. So I did start at around 10 years old, between 10 and 11. That's when I got my first classical guitar, although I wanted to learn electric guitar. And it was around that age that I first listened to the first rock track I ever listened to, which is Metropolis by Dream Theater. And I immediately fell in love with it.
So you jumped into prog right early, right?
Yeah,
Quite
luckily.
early. And did you ever meet that acoustic guitar again and tell him, "Look where I am now"?
No.
So
I hope he sees me and he's proud.
okay, so but somehow it's a strange story that it kind of started with Avril Lavigne, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is strange. I was a
Okay.
kid. I was like, wow, I want to be a rock star, you know?
You picked up the guitar, started learning, but when did you think like I'm gonna challenge myself? I'm gonna learn to play this instrument as best as I can do.
Okay, so when I first started, it was with a guitar teacher. I took lessons with him for about 7 or 8 months,
Hmm.
and then I kind of drifted away from it for a couple of years, even more, like around 3 years. No, it was a couple of years. I remember I picked up the guitar again around 13 years old, and I had already bought my first electric guitar, which was a Max Stone guitar, and it was left laying on the table for like about 2 years,
Hmm.
and the setup action was like 2 centimeters, man. It was
Okay.
a pain in the ass to play.
Hmm.
I don't know why. I just felt the passion reignited, and I started again. I picked it up again, and I remember just wanting to sound exactly like what I'm listening to, whether it was Pantera, Metallica, Dream Theater. I
Hmm.
just wanted to sound like those guys. And I kept going at it until I sounded like them. And that's how basically I got into it.
So at what age did you feel like confident enough to play, for example, on a stage or in front of friends?
I'd say around 14.
Okay, so that's still quite fast and quite young, right?
Yeah, I used to practice a lot. Like I remember going like 12, 13 hours a day sometimes. No
Okay.
joke.
So when
Yeah.
was your first like kind of live audience performance?
It was between the age of 14 and 15 with my
Okay.
first band called Rampage. We used
Okay.
to play Maiden and Metallica covers.
Mm-hmm. Which year was that approximately?
Uh, that was like 12, 13 years ago. So
Okay.
2009.
So 2009, 2010, right?
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
probably attended one of those events, but I wouldn't remember
Yeah.
to be sure. But I remember there was a
Yeah.
young guy on the stage playing some cool guitar riffs, and I was like, "Oh, that guy plays well for his age. For seems to be a skilled talent. Let's see where he will be in the future." And here we are. Uh,
Here we are.
I wanted to say, so you started playing, you started covers, as most people start when they're playing before they start to make their own music. When did you start
That's
making your own music?
Oh, that one I don't really remember. But somewhere in those 12 to 13 hours of practice, I'd be noodling some ideas
Mm-hmm.
and I'd want to develop them at one point. So I used to use Guitar Pro a lot. I used to write down, like, transcribe the ideas into Guitar Pro. And whenever I had the time, I used to go listen to them and develop them, add some more layers like drums, maybe think of vocals.
Mm-hmm. Did you start
But I don't
working?
remember what it was that.
Yeah. Did you work with some people already, like in your band, in your cover band, on some like for them to add the drums to the track you're making, or?
Yeah, we used to jam sometimes. Yeah, that's true. When I had some ideas laying around, I jammed them in the practice, in the rehearsal,
Mm-hmm.
and see how things went. I remember we did one original that we played live before, like, dismembering the band. I don't even remember how it sounds like.
Okay.
I don't know.
So you don't have any archive of that, like an old recording, old videos of that, or stage performances, the early ones? No. Okay. After that, you kind of formed another band, right? That was called Monarchy.
Yep.
That was, and you had the first recorded release in 2011, right? So
Yep, that's
tell us a bit about that. How did that happen? Who are the people with you on that album? How did that go as a first release experience?
okay. So that was almost along the time that we started going more into Dream Theater covers,
Mm-hmm.
and we started like finding our passion in the prog, and that's how, like, my taste, not my taste, but like the ideas that I was having were more like in the prog area more than in the thrash metal, which were the bands that I'm covering with Rampage. So with Monarchy, we wanted to do something like really out there at the time. So I started that project with Anthony Maxoudian, and we wrote a couple of originals and came up with the concept, which is the story of the sunken city Atlantis. And yeah, that's how it came to life. But it ended up being a bit more like prog with a lot of power elements to it.
Mm-hmm. So there was different influences, and it wasn't still yet a full prog album, right? But you were still trying to learn through this album.
Definitely, especially that it was written mainly on Guitar Pro as well. It was a
Wow.
two-man project. It wasn't like a band effort,
Uh-huh.
so it was a bit one-dimensional in that regard.
And how did it go with the recording at the time, 2011?
The drums were MIDI, where they were written and they were programmed. The recording, I almost don't even remember. I remember we used to record the bass at Roy Naufal's place.
Mm-hmm.
We used to use his bass to record. I think we recorded guitars there as well, and I'm sure the vocals there. It was, of course, you learn a lot because in the production industry, trial and error is the number one teacher. That's how I feel.
So you had some help from some people who had more experience in recording or had the tools and the instruments. For example, you mentioned Roy and playing on his bass recording.
Yeah.
Did you have other people help you with like mixing, and how did that work, for example?
Roy did the mix at the
Okay.
time, but we had no idea what we were doing. Like we just knew we liked to listen to those bands,
Yeah.
and we gave them as a reference to Roy, and he cooked up the mix. And
see.
back then we weren't really as picky, like s- I'd spend like 2 weeks dialing a tone today. Back then I was like, who has an amp? I have a recording. It was like
Yeah.
anything works. I just need
Just
to-
get it out, get it recorded.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, of course, now I definitely assume you are more, sensitive with the small differences in the tone. We're gonna talk a lot about that because
Yeah, yeah.
you made some miraculous videos that we're gonna be talking about in a few minutes.
Awesome.
So after Monarchy, which was 2011, I probably attended the release event and your performance on the stage. I remember at the time it was quite a good release and quite an interesting band playing prog metal. 2011 in Lebanon, there wasn't many bands playing prog. As you said, a lot of them were playing thrash metal, maybe death metal, going with the extremes in some cases. Doom was trendy. Symphonic metal was really trendy, but prog metal in Lebanon wasn't that much trendy. Although Dream Theater has been, filling up full stages and huge event locations since 2003 at least.
Yeah, that's true.
So prog wasn't the thing, but it was for you the thing, right? This is where you felt this is where you wanted to create music. Prog.
Yeah, definitely. It came naturally.
And Dream Theater was already one of the major influences, right? The main influence, I could say. But Monarchy as a kind of a project or a band name, if you would say, didn't live for long, didn't survive for long. After that, you transitioned to another kind of a project, right?
Yeah, that's true. Because we were kids, we were young. Like I was 15, 16 years back then.
Yeah.
And some of the members, like they were thinking of going for education abroad,
Yeah.
So when you don't have any members anymore, it kind of you lose motivation. But especially it's hard when you're like driving the ship, let's call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and to have no members to share that with, no band members, I mean, you kind of lose motivation towards the whole thing.
So after a few years, you formed a band called Turbulence. Is that right?
Yep.
And how did you meet the people from that band? How did that become a thing?
It wasn't even a few years later. It was like a couple of months later.
Okay.
Yeah, I got in contact with Mood, who's the keyboardist. And I remember, like, I think I used to see him in where we used to rehearse with Monarchy, which was at Amadeus' place. And he was the keyboardist with Amadeus. So I think that's how we kind of knew that we existed, So he contacted me because he had heard that we dismembered Monarchy. And he was like, let's try something together. We obviously we have the same interests. We both like Dream Theater and prog. So it kind of really started like that, just pitching ideas over Facebook Messenger. There wasn't even Messenger back then. It was just Facebook. So we just started pitching ideas, and we found ourselves with the song like 1 week later. So we said, why not get together and jam to that song? So we booked like a 2-3 hour rehearsal, and we played every Dream Theater song we ever played together.
Yeah.
And it was magical. It was a magical moment because it was more than just playing covers, It's like you met someone that has the same passion and shares kind of the same vision with you.
Yeah.
That's always an amazing thing.
So you got along quickly, you had the same vibe, the same interest in music, and whatever ideas you generated, they kind of worked together quite fast, right?
Definitely.
So you started playing together since, at least then now we can say since 2011 or 12, you started playing together as a band?
Yeah. Yep.
So
at the end of 2011, beginning of 2012.
Okay, and you did covers, right? You played a lot of covers, mainly Dream Theater.
The thing is, we got together to just write music together.
Yeah.
There was no like project, let's cover Dream Theater, but we both loved that band,
Yeah.
And we haven't really covered it, like, as we say in Arabic, ما فيش شيء نحكي عنه.
Yeah.
We weren't satisfied yet. We wanted to play it live in front of people who also want to see it played live,
Yeah.
So at first we just were like writing music, and then we thought, okay, so how are we gonna market this album? Kind of how are gonna people hear about us? So let's do the Dream Theater now thing. So that's how that came to life. And that's how most people came to know Turbulence. It's through the Dream Theater nights. And when I say most people, I mean here in Lebanon.
Yeah, and those people were at least fans of prog metal. So you got those people listening to you, and then when you have your release, they will say, okay, let's check this out. We know the band at least.
Definitely, that was the plan.
Quite an interesting strategy there.
Yeah, it is.
Did it work?
It did work, although I must say that it backfired to some extent, because like the first Turbulence album, Disequilibrium, was the first real effort at making music. I don't mean like to say that Monarchy wasn't a real effort, but it was like just noodling around, as opposed to Disequilibrium, which was really thought through, let's say. and it was meticulously crafted. So, and it was the first attempt. And I think most bands just want to, how do I put it? You know, we liked Dream Theater, we liked Opeth, we liked Symphony X. So we wanted to try what these guys were doing in our own way. But at the end of the day, you end up sounding a lot like them. So that didn't really help because we were the band that already did 3 Dream Theater nights and we sound like Dream Theater. So we became like overshadowed.
Yeah, so you kind of lost your identity by covering one single band all the time, right? So you'll
kind of.
And you released Disequilibrium. Did you feel it was really influenced a lot by Dream Theater with the writing style, with the melodies? Definitely.
Yep.
What kind of feedback you got on that album, on that release?
It was all good feedback, but like all of it was they sound a lot like Dream Theater, like a mixture between Dream Theater, Symphony X. What if Dream Theater and Fate's Warning had a baby? You know, these comments, which maybe the average person would go, awesome, I want to sound like these bands. And it's good. It is an achievement in itself if you want to think about it like that. But it was never satisfying for us, you know, and we never really thought about it like that. It was just us creating music like we want, like we hear it, instead of trying to push the envelope.
So it was definitely a big step forward, right? Producing something that you worked on, you crafted, you wanted it to sound like this, much more details, much more work on the details and focus. That was 2015. You released that. You had several events, several concerts. You played on several stages, I would say, and you also used some of the material for a competition, right? There was
a
certain Battle of the Band competition.
The one for Wagen. Am I right?
Yeah. So
we did. And that was before the album was released.
Even before. And in that event, there were several Lebanese bands, each playing one or two of their originals, and they were selecting a band to represent, right? And at the time, Turbulence came at number 2.
Yep.
Yeah, so among several bands, your band was, I would say, second on the stage, right? Or so you came close to.
There was. Sorry?
Yeah, so I meant you came close to go and open or be on a stage in Wacken.
Yeah.
Okay, do you still have that as a goal, like to go to a huge concert and be an opening band, maybe one of the main bands on such events?
Of course, because that's why we make music. At the end of the day, we want we want people to listen to it and to feel something the way we feel like when we listen to music.
Yeah.
So playing in front of huge crowds, of course, it's a dream for every one of us in the band.
So it will give you a big exposure, right? A lot of people will get to know the band and their music. So after that, you started working directly on something else, something new, or you took a break on the releases? Because there's quite a long break from that release to what's coming next with Turbulence.
Yeah, that's true. The thing is, it was hard back then to produce an album, especially because we were so young and we were still learning. So a lot of mistakes were made and we had a lot of financial obstacles. So that took time a bit. And an album that should have been released in 2013 was released in 2015. So there was a lot of time I wouldn't say just sitting around, but not writing music. It was done. We had written the whole record and we had recorded it. We were just producing it. So we started writing back then. We were already pitching ideas, trying to come up with conceptual ideas for what the next album would be about. So no, there was no break in between, and we were just taking our time, trying to decide on a vision before going all in.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely didn't need to rush to have another release. There was no external pressure to have another release out, right? So you mostly until I guess until now you had the total freedom to manage what you're doing and to work on your next release. You weren't officially booked or signed or pressured to release anything.
Exactly. There was
So
an internal, yeah, there wasn't like a label above us.
yeah, yeah. And then when did you like, you know, shift the gears and started working on the next release, started recording that?
Okay, so you know, after we released Disequilibrium and after that whole thing like kind of faded out,
Mm-hmm.
it was like a year later, I think. It was okay, guys. Let's sit down and decide what we gonna do next, what the next album will be about, and that's how it started. We picked the theme or the story behind it, and we started laying out what we wanted to do musically. We started writing down what we needed to do, like what ideas we needed to explore in this album. What was the question again?
So when did you start recording it? So I see here you had still Mood with you in the band. You had Omar on vocals. Who else is in the band? And how did they join it? So
All
Omar,
right.
even how did Omar join the band? Because he was in Monarchy too, right?
Yep, that's true. So here in the photo you have Omar in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
You have on the right you have Anthony, then Said. Anthony Atwe, the bassist,
Mm-hmm.
and Said Jrez, our drummer.
Okay.
So the band was mainly Mood and I. And when we needed to record Disequilibrium, we spoke to Omar because we agreed that he was the voice of the band. So we contacted him and he was really interested and we made the record together. So I'd say Omar is like part of the foundation as well. And throughout the years, even when we were producing Disequilibrium, that was around the time that we were doing the Dream Theater nights. And we used to like play with different members.
Mm-hmm.
We'd get like Anthony Atwe played with us, if I'm not mistaken, in Theater Night 1 and 2, if I'm not mistaken. And we played with a bunch of different drummers. And that was kind of also indirectly a test. Not a test, but we were like trying out who would be the final members. You know, that was like also an advantage for us to try out with these members. And funnily enough, we met Sayed in the most weird way. He used to play with a band called Erotic Cakes. No, not Erotic Cakes. I forgot the name. A Lebanese band. They used to play like alternative rock.
Mm-hmm.
And Sayed is from Zgharta, really far away from us. And he had never heard of Turbulence, but he knew Mood because Mood was also in the live scene of playing in pubs and restaurants. So he told him, like, I have a passion for prog. If you know any band that wants to play prog, please talk to me. And we were like literally searching for a drummer. So he told him, yeah, come, let's try out. And we had already done 2 Dream Theater nights. And what you should know is Sayed is a Dream Theater fanatic. And he had never even heard of us, you know, and in the same like small country.
Yeah, but Lebanon is a small country. How come?
I had no idea. So we gave him 2 songs from the album to rehearse. And I remember on the day of the rehearsal, we played through those songs seamlessly. And we spent like 2 hours playing some of the hardest Dream Theater songs right there on the spot. Kind of like what happened with me and Mood. And it was like, man, this is our drummer, obviously, you know?
Yeah. So it just worked from the start again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So that's how. So now we have me, Mood, Omar, and Sayed. And Anthony Atwe, throughout the years, we kind of were in touch with him and we really liked him. Like, we're really close friends. And then when the time was right and it was time to, like, really, like you said, يعني تدعس البنزين على frontal.
Put the pedal on the gas, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. We spoke to him and we worked things out. And that's how he got into the band and recorded Frontal with us. The recording happened around end of 2019. That's when we recorded everything. We were done with every note on the album.
That's 2 years ago, right? Almost
2 years ago, yeah. And we finished like producing the whole record by March 2020.
And the people who joined, was the material ready for the album? And then when you had the full band, I would say, you recorded what you had, or they had a lot of input, each on his own, like drums, bass. Did that change the tracks the way you first envisioned them, or the way you first worked on them, you and Mood?
Okay, so when Sayed was a member of the band, we hadn't chosen what we wanted to do with Frontal. What's Frontal now? So we were 4 of the final members, and we had Sebastian Milky on bass. And that's when we decided, we're gonna talk about, we'll get to that later about Frontal. And okay, so we wrote the album with Sayed. Sayed was part of the band when we were like building the songs and building the album. However, Anthony Atouet joined the band. The songs were already done.
Okay.
And he did add a lot to them, but like the structure was already laid out.
Okay, so he added like overlaying melodies, some of his own lines, but no structure. Okay.
And not to mention touch while recording.
Say again?
I'm saying not to mention his touch in the recording.
On the sounds and all that. So that was Turbulence, first or second real release, Frontal. Yep. So you said it was almost ready in March last year.
It was fully ready in March.
And it's coming March this year. So why is there a year in between?
So, we wanted to shop the album. We didn't want to release independently with Disequilibrium.
Yeah.
We weren't very happy with how things went on that and the marketing of that album. So we wanted to shop it and to try to get a label behind us. So that took time, and we made sure that we presented the best that we could before shopping it. We didn't want to go with demos. We went with the full mastered album. And once a label was on board, which is, Frontiers, there's logistics involved and, trying to find the right date and the right marketing plan and all of that, and trying to push it to a time where we'd hope we can tour and support it.
So you have to wait for things to change a bit. So stages will be an option. Playing on a stage will be an option again.
Definitely.
So the video we showed at the beginning of our talk was part of one of the first released tracks from the album. That was Madness Unforeseen. And you released this a few months ago, right? Not long ago.
It was less than a month ago.
So what kind of feedback, or what did you hear from the audience so far on the first release?
Yeah, so far we're very happy with the feedback. Some people picked up on our Oriental culture background in the music and the melodies, like little nuance here and there.
Yeah,
which is really good.
Would you blame Mood for that?
Maybe a bit, yeah. Okay. I think we're all responsible for that.
But that gives you kind of your own sound, a bit of uniqueness, your own
I guess
identity, right?
People were really happy to hear that kind of flavor.
Yeah.
With that kind of aggression and electronic elements, which was really...
I see. So that's one release out. There is kind of a momentum. There is a build-up, right? There's an album coming. And there is a teaser. Kind of a teaser, right? You sent me. I'm going to try to play it now. Let's hope it will be heard clearly. If not, I will add it in the YouTube edit of this video. So I'm going to run it now. It's 30 seconds. And then we're going to talk briefly about what's coming next for Frontal, the album. Okay, that was a quick teaser. What? So this seems to be a kind of a more proggy technical part of a track, right? So
Yeah, definitely.
should we expect some tracks to be much heavier, and should we expect some tracks to be much acoustic, calm,
You can expect both of what you just mentioned in all of the songs. Like
Okay.
it is prog at the end of the day, and it's known for like swift changes in moods and in ambience. So that's kind of actually how we came to choose Madness as the first single, because it kind of has a bit of everything. Maybe not the acoustic and somber parts. So yeah, and when you asked me to like prepare a small teaser, it was like the hardest thing to do because can't really convey what this album would sound like in like 30 seconds or even a minute.
Yeah.
You know, it has the whole spectrum. I'm very proud to say that.
I see some comments. So somebody already, Rami Jawlak has already tried to count the time signatures. Can you tell him how many he should expect on one track?
Rami is awesome. Hi, Rami.
So for the people listening, you can always leave some questions for Alain. I can ask him live, and if you have some strange comments, some interesting comments, I'm ready to ask. So of course it's good to sometimes give some teasers. When are you planning to release a second track or a second video soon?
Yeah, so we have another single releasing this coming Monday on February 15th.
Oh, coming
and
soon.
It's gonna be along a lyric video.
Okay.
Yep.
With some visual or digital animation with the lyrical video.
Yeah, visualizers, a lyric video kind of.
Okay. So is that teaser part of it, or?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question because
we'll see. We'll see then. We'll skip the question.
Okay. The answer is a bit complicated. That's why.
Okay. We'll skip the question and we'll wait for the release on the 15th. Okay, so we'll be sharing that definitely when it's out. For the people who'd like to listen for the new track, we will share it on our page and on other mediums. So we're expecting an album. The album is coming March 12th. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true.
So we're not too far even from the whole album release. Yep. And are you already also planning another like a video or another additional material to be released with it?
There's gonna be a single released on the day of the album release, as it's gonna be released as a single, but there won't be any video accompanying that. But we do plan on like promoting some of the songs with some cool videos, but after the release, we'll see what happens. But yeah, there are plans for that.
I see, and it will be definitely a physical copy we can buy through your label, right?
Yep, that's true.
Okay. So what's the label's name?
Frontiers Records.
Frontiers Record, and there will be a purchase link. We will also try to share that when it's available to buy.
Yeah.
I already checked.
There's a pre-order and pre-save link.
Yeah, I already checked. There is a pre-order link, so we will add that later to our talk here for whoever wants to order it, digital or physical. These are two options. So okay, great. So there's an album coming soon. I didn't want to interrupt the sequence of the work of Turbulence, but you did something in between, right? You had some solo work. You had a personal plan to publish, maybe release an album that you called Vision of a Dream. Is that right?
Yep, Visions of a Dream. That's true.
And that was kind of moving forward. Then you changed the plan. What's the story of that project?
So that project came to life. I was actually in a very dark place in my life after releasing Disequilibrium. Like I already mentioned, we were very young and we had a lot of expectations for Disequilibrium, and it mainly stemmed because we were so proud of it,
Yeah.
And with that pride came a bit of high expectations, and that most often than not leads to disappointment in life. So as an artist, you tend to take that very hard and start to go into self-doubt. And I was in a very dark place. And from that dark place was born Visions of a Dream. Like, I'm sure a lot of people would think that this is not very healthy, and I'd agree with them. But I wrote this album to prove to myself that I kind of had something to say
Mm-hmm.
through music.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't forced in any means, but I needed to prove that to myself. I needed
Yeah.
to prove that I could write something that would make me or anyone
Mm-hmm.
or at least one person feel something. And that's how the song Visions of a Dream was born. And with it, a lot of demos, a lot of ideas that I'm still sitting on because I'm honestly not in that place at the moment. So I
So
didn't feel like going back to it yet.
So I hope with the release of Turbulence, you will see that it's sometimes about the exposure, not necessarily about the quality of the material only. You need the
Yep.
very good quality plus the exposure, the reach, and then you might see like the reaction you would expect. So we're having only the good material without the reach is not enough, and definitely having a reach without good material is not enough. Is not enough for the first release.
That's
For
so
some
true.
bands, they start with a huge release, with exposure, and then they start putting out albums that are boring, but they still sell every time 10% less until they fade out of existence, right?
That's so true. Yeah, I agree with
Okay.
you.
So I have very high hopes and very high expectations for what's coming with Frontal. For Visions of a Dream, this is one you released one track. You also released Nostalgia, am I right? And Conformal as tracks,
Yep, those
demos.
two were instrumental.
And they are on YouTube. Like if somebody's interested, they can find them on YouTube and listen, right?
Yep,
Oh.
and Spotify and Grammy.
So there was something in 2017, but at the same time there was something cooking with another band. Can you tell us about that other band?
Are you talking about OSTURA?
Yes. So last time I talked to Amadeus, and Amadeus is very envious of Ostura and specifically of the album called The Room. What's so magical about that album? I will end up talking to Elia when I get the chance, and to the other members of the band. But I'm not gonna say much about the album. I want you to tell me what's so magical about that album.
I wish I could tell you, but I think the the secret is that people can relate to it.
Yeah,
Even though it's prog and it's heavy, it's
yeah,
emotion heavy, and you can't not engage with it. You
I
know.
see.
And I didn't have a lot to do with the composition of that album,
Hmm.
so I was kind of like witnessing it first row, witnessing the magic taking place,
Yeah,
and that's what you get when you work with people like Danny and Elia.
yeah. So
And then
the
a learning experience.
mhm. You learned from them,
Yeah, go
from their
on.
knowledge, from their experience, from their process. Did you learn from them some tips and tricks?
Definitely. It was more like with Ostura, I'm more like of a performer more than a producer.
Yeah.
So was kind of I had a different function. So that opens the door for you to learn stuff, when you just listen and have to, like, your tasks are different, your goals are different.
Hmm.
As a guitarist, I want to, not to say that with Turbulence, I don't like aspire to inspire people with my guitar work, but with Ostura, it was like more, I need to impress even Danny and Elia before thinking of the audience as well.
Hmm.
So that made me challenge myself and push myself. And when you do that, you learn a lot for sure.
So you played on this album all the rhythm guitar, all the lead guitar, right?
No, the lead guitars, none of it was me.
Okay, so you mainly the rhythm.
All international. I
Okay, and
played everything, the rhythms to the clean guitars to the acoustic guitars.
okay. And it was really well ready, scripted, or you had to put in some of your style in it.
I'd say it was like 75% ready, 25%
Okay,
me picking up a notch.
yeah. And when you heard the final material, how did it sound to you as an
It
album?
was amazing. The thing about Ostura, even if you listen to the demos, they're like great. You'd enjoy them.
Okay,
So to have someone like Jens mix them and you've heard it. It's an amazing production.
agree. Yes.
To hear that, it's even like mind blowing.
So you're aiming for Frontal to match or beat that also?
Oh, I wouldn't think of it like that,
Yeah.
but I sound like I think the mixing either does the music justice or not. So
Okay.
I aimed for frontal in the production process to be able to maintain the beauty, the
Mm-hmm.
raw behind the composition.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to live up to that, of course. But they're
Okay.
different sounding albums, you know? You can't really compare them. Like you can't go and compare snare sounds or vocal sounds. They're much different.
Yeah. Yeah. A different style. Um,
Yeah.
for you as a solo independent musician, are you working on something else? Are you planning to record something else? Are you planning a new project, a side project? So you said
I'm
visions.
not sure.
Vision of a Dream
Yeah.
was in a dark place, in a kind of a psychological situation where you pushed for that. I feel that
Yeah.
now you're on a very different situation where you're driven forward, you're pushing forward, and sometimes such situation where you're really pushing, you're generating, you're making new stuff. You tend to be a bit more creative. You might start to generate more than you can release. Some ideas that will not end up on frontal, but you want them to be released. Do you have something on the side that you're recording?
Honestly, I have a lot of like I don't know what to call them potential projects. I have a lot of projects that I'd like to do,
Yeah,
but for me to like commit to, I need to be in a certain state of mind. I can't just go,
yeah,
okay, I write music now. You know, I have to be in a certain state of mind. And
yeah.
after the roller coaster between Frontal and we're working on the on OSTURA's third record.
Okay.
Creatively, I don't have room for more. You know,
Yeah,
creatively
yeah.
speaking.
On
And
Astura's. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
more importantly, I don't feel the need to yet. I don't
Hmm.
feel like I have stuff to say, and I don't like to just okay, I'll write a riff and
Yeah.
write a song. Not that kind of.
So for now you have at
There's
least.
nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So for now you have at least two channels to release music through. Astura's third album, which we're not gonna talk too much about yet. I'll leave that when I talk to Astura's band members and ask them more about that. And you have, of course, Turbulence next release. So we're gonna see how that goes. You hopefully you'll see on the stage. I'd love to see you play live the new releases.
Oh man, I
Uh,
miss it.
commenting on Astura, we have a comment from Elia himself, Elia Munsef, and he says, "When you have the best guitarist in the world, it's easy to make a good album." So. I agree with them. So sometimes when you have a talented person that can create some very very creative melodies, very interesting melodies, and play them the way they should be played. So whatever you imagine in your mind, I think you are one of the rare people who can generate the sound, the tone that you imagine in your head. So you can reach that, and it's not that easy for many guitar players to play the tone they imagine in their mind. Um, there's another comment on Astura.
I think my internet was unstable. I didn't hear what you said last.
Yeah, for a second we lost you for a second. Your video is still frozen.
All right.
It will recover hopefully.
Yeah,
I just
I'm on
mentioned
it.
that you are from the very few people who, whenever they imagine a melody and imagine a tone that goes with it, you are from the few people who can create that to make it a reality. So imagine a melody, imagine a tone, and play it exactly as you heard it in your head. I think we're again streaming from Lebanon has its own problems. You're back, Alan. We can see you. I hope you can hear
Yep.
us well. Yeah,
Yeah, I hear you. Man.
good. We had another
Sorry.
comment. We had another comment from Jason Mardini. He's saying that they want to hear you. He wants to hear you on the third Ostura album as the lead guitar. Would that be a possibility?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. You can ask Elia. He's right there.
Okay. Maybe he's gonna comment on that on the chat. So let's shift gears and change a bit. We talked enough about what's being recorded, what's coming next, and what's planned to be recorded in the near future. We're gonna follow up on that and share it with everyone listening. Before I move to a second topic, I wanted to ask, along those years, you probably picked up different influences, different guitar players influencing what you play. So could you name some of them and how they influence your playing technique, your tone, the guitar you use, other technical details?
Yeah, so obviously the obvious answer, the obvious first guitarist I came would be John Petrucci. I was like, growing up listening to this guy.
Who's that?
And like I told you, I was obsessed. Who's that?
Yeah.
So like I told you, I was obsessed with when I wanted to create a solo of his or any for that matter. I really wanted it to sound the same because that way I'd be like really capturing the essence. And with that comes like the technique and little nuances that you do with playing that sets you apart from people, you know? So John Petrucci, one of them, Guthrie Govan was one of them for sure. Richard Henschel from Haken, I really love his playing, his rhythm work. But mainly John Petrucci and Guthrie were the main two that I really wanted to absorb. And they really influenced my note choices, phrasing, and even like logic behind writing a solo, approaching a solo, and what it does, how the impact that it has on the listener. And that's the number one priority, you know. It's not about how good I can play, it's about how much I can engage the listener. And that's the number one like goal, if you want.
Okay, so has anything changed in the last few years in the way you phrased your music and the way you wrote your melodies?
Oh, I'm gonna sound a bit cheesy, but that changes every second, every minute. You know, there's something new, listen to something that makes you feel a certain way. I think it's all about what you feel in that specific moment. Like I listen to solos that I've written in Disequilibrium.
Yeah.
I can't really like understand what I was thinking. That could be interpreted as good or bad, I don't know. But I can't relate to that person, you know, in a way. I guess you just mature. It's just about you nurture yourself with new music, and your taste changes with time. You know, it's fine tuned in some places.
Yeah. Did you pick up some recent new influence? Like you've discovered a new band with an amazing guitar player, and you started, you know, following up and listening to that kind of a new influence?
I couldn't say. I like to project myself to like a lot of styles as not to become one-dimensional in metal. If you listen to metal all the time, you're gonna recreate what you hear. But if you like making metal music and rock music, and you listen to electronic, to pop, to alternative, to classical, that kind of like does a nice mix in the back of your head, and it surfaces when you're pitching.
So it's good to diversify your influence, diversify the styles you listen to, and that gives you more creative spectrum, right?
Definitely.
Okay, I'm gonna share a short part of a video that you have on YouTube, and then we're gonna start talking about YouTube. What's happening on YouTube? Okay, so I'm gonna run the video, put it on front screen, talk about it when it's done. There's a lot of questions about that. Okay. So that video broke the internet when you did the cover of a Shred collab. What the
Yeah.
hell was that? uh, how did that happen? And how did you manage to cover like several different guitar players, each in his own style, each in his own like high level of guitar playing? You managed to kind of follow all of what they can do, and do it one person doing the whole thing, like learning all those advanced techniques. One guy doing all the advanced techniques in how much time?
4 days.
Okay, so this is kind of a miraculous achievement, right? I guess that's why a lot of people went crazy. Like, they couldn't believe that this video is real, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So tell us, how did
Especially
you
in the short,
say again? Sorry.
especially in the short time frame.
Yeah, yeah. That's even if you had a month, that's impossible. So tell me, how did you like first watch this video, and why did you get an idea? Okay, I can do this. Oh, wait, 1 second. Were you holding a beer? Did you give it to someone and say, "Hold my beer"?
I wish I was.
Okay.
Funny story, actually. I remember watching the video, I think it was 2 days after it was released. And I was like, this is really cool. I had seen a video like this before it. I think it was the previous Shred collab, if I'm not mistaken. But I was on the phone with, like on WhatsApp, with Elia and with Firas Faddoul.
Mhm.
And it was literally, I just went like, wouldn't it be cool if like one guitarist covered all of these solos? And they were like, yeah.
Mhm.
And I was like, I'm gonna do that. And they were
Challenge
like, no
accepted.
way. Yeah, I wanted to do it before the year ended. That was like what motivated me, because I would have lost interest way past 4 days. If it had taken a week or two, I would have went, it would have been cool, but not like really cool. So the fact that I knew I was gonna end up with a video that was gonna like, the title was gonna be controversial to say the least, that really, really motivated me. As for how I did that, I wish I could tell you clearly how I did it, but it took, I think I slept like 5 hours in those 4 days.
Really? And like you had a program, right, to get this done, and
Yeah, definitely. It was, the first day was do the backing track from A to Z, like note for note, even the drums and the bass. I even wrote them in MIDI and I sent them to Bassem Daou, who
wow.
did the amazing mix.
Yeah.
And the following days were like, I learned the solo and I just recorded.
Yeah.
And that's something that you should know. I'm just really fortunate and lucky to have a really strong memory. I could like see the tabs for a song
Yeah.
once and I'd remember it a week later. I'd remember bits of it. So what really helped me was I learned the song, the solo, and I'd record it on the spot.
Wow.
That really helped to make things faster. It wasn't like I learned all of them and then perform all of them. That would have taken ages.
Yeah. So one by one, and then you combined.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm gonna just mention the comments a bit, then I'll have the next question on this.
That's
So
why you're laughing.
yeah, because Elia Onsef just mentioned that you are at the moment learning 2-4 songs while we're talking. Yeah. And um, Serk Suleiman commented that there's one guitarist to rule them all. So do you have a special ring with you? I wanted to ask, like, of course we saw the video. I just showed very short part of it. It's a 9 minutes video, and you played like, that's a lot of condensed guitar solos in 9 minutes, right? To learn and play. Did you have one? And you played bass also. Second of the AB 504, right? A part of a bass line. That was something I showed. Did you have a specific one that was much more challenging than the others, or something like very new as a technique to you?
Definitely. There was the Steven Taranto one. He's out of this planet, man. and I think I didn't get it note for note,
Mm-hmm.
but I got the feel of it and some like clicks
Mm-hmm.
to just like so I wouldn't cry. I
Yeah.
think.
Okay.
Yeah, so that one was particularly challenging. As for the rest, they're all challenging in their own ways, because to each his own technique and his own sound, and to it's not just about playing the notes; it's about getting the performance as well,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the feel,
Yeah,
make
that's
it
another
sound.
big subject there, the tone. Like everybody commented, a lot of guitar players and the players themselves commented, like, how did you get my tone? How was that process?
Yeah, it was just like mix and match, if you want. So
Yeah.
I put the sound in Cubase and
Mm-hmm.
I listened to it and fine tune until I sounded like somewhat the same.
Mm-hmm.
I
So,
used some people would be surprised. I used the guitar rig for 80% of those tones.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you used like the all tools you had, but you also need the skill to catch what you hear, to know exactly what would match it in the tone, and to get even some techniques that maybe you had to practice that are new to you. You kind of pick them up quickly. And you switched guitars between some of the covers. Was there a main reason for switching the guitar? Was it tuning?
It was
Was it
either
the
tuning,
pickups? Yeah,
it was either tuning or the tone.
the
Those
tone.
were the main factors when
Yeah.
I chose what guitar.
So with heavy strings, light strings, low
Yeah,
action.
sometimes
Mm,
I need the seventh string
mm,
on the
mhm.
on my set.
I know this might be a silly question, but is there a guitar solo that you think you will never be able to play?
That's a hard one. I don't like to think about it like that. Because if I answer no, I'm gonna come off as cocky. But
Yeah.
in my head, of course it's no, because
Mm-hmm.
whatever solo you're gonna throw at me, I'm gonna play it in
Mm-hmm.
my own way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna find a way to make it sound to deliver the same message.
Mm-hmm.
But if you
Mm-hmm.
if you want to answer, like technically speaking, yes,
Yeah.
some things are really hard, definitely.
So after that video was out and it made that impact, it has, I think, about 400,000 or 330,000 viewers so far, and growing, and still
Yeah.
growing. There was the person who originally posted the Shred collab, right? Jared Dines on his channel. That's what you covered. He posted the second video and said someone covered the Shred collab, and he kind of featured again you and what you did. So how did that go? Like, did he contact you and say, "What the fuck?" or how did that go?
I remember like when I posted the video, it was New Year's Eve.
Yeah,
It was literally like 12 on New Year's Eve, 12
yeah.
p.m. So the next day I woke up and I saw that he had shared it to his Instagram story.
Uh-huh.
And, I felt nice about that. And then I saw his comment like a few days later on YouTube. He commented, I think he asked me if I wanted to do a Shred Wars. And then he contacted me on the Instagram Messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, let's do a Shred Wars. I'll send you the backing track soon. And we set it up, but it took like around 5 to 6 months
Mm-hmm.
for the next video to come out. So yeah.
Okay, before I move forward a bit more, I forgot to mention something. When I just shared your video now, there was 3 seconds or 2.7 seconds of Stairway to Heaven. Isn't that the major crime?
So I noticed that the progression that they used
Yeah,
was a lot similar.
yeah.
So I wanted to like tell them, I know what you did.
Okay, but you could get the copyright strike.
Yeah,
Okay. I just did that
it was
too,
subtle.
so. Okay. I see, I see. So after that, when he featured, talked about you, and he had you on. By the way, everyone listening, if you haven't joined or followed Alain's YouTube channel, you have to. It's an amazing channel. He puts a lot of covers, a lot of his own music, a lot of his own interpretation of music. You should definitely check his channel. It is called Alain Ibrahim, right? As simple as that.
Yep.
So it should be easy to find you on YouTube and follow you. So after that kind of a reaction, and you got in contact with Jared Dines, he asked you some questions. What kind of like discussion questions did he have for you?
There were no questions actually. It was like, man, let's do a Shred Wars. I'm gonna send
Yeah.
you Yeah, and then it was like a string of, okay, so when are we gonna do that? He was a bit, he's a busy man also.
Yeah.
So he'd go like, yeah, I think I'm gonna send you the track in 2 weeks, in a month. And then one day I woke up and saw a link to a Dropbox. I downloaded it and
Mm-hmm.
I did my solos, send them back to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a month or two later, he did the video. There
Okay.
wasn't like a real conversation about the initial video, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, yeah, but there was some time between when you recorded that second collab, or you recorded your first collaboration, right? And then 2 months later it was out.
Yeah.
And that was it called Gent 2020, or what was it called?
No, that was Shed Wars.
Shred Wars.
It's the Shed Wars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was there more of that to come through collaborations?
I don't know. I hope so. I hope
Okay.
so.
Okay. So YouTube is a thing now, right?
Yeah.
And it's growing. And I see.
Thank you for finding out.
So you have your channel, it's growing. You have more people following your channel, following your music. You even covered your own, kind of self-covered your track, right? So Unforeseen Madness from Frontal.
Yeah.
You played it, you recorded the guitar playthrough of it. So that brought some attention to also your band, because I saw a lot of people asking, like, this guy should be in a band. And would you please Google him, his name, and then you'll see that he is already in one. So it's strange sometimes. I'm not gonna judge everyone on YouTube, but it's kind of strange when you have a lot of guitar players commenting like, this guy should be in a band. Like, why wouldn't they just Google the name? They'll find the bands. So they could listen to OSTURA, they can listen to Turbulence, they can even maybe find Monarchy if they want to go that much back, and they will also listen to the new stuff coming soon. Do you yourself plan to do something big on YouTube, like next? Do you have something planned that you want to maybe tease about, or you want us to share in the future?
Honestly, my main focus right now has been releasing Frontal and recording the third OSTURA album. So I haven't like really planned some huge idea like the one with the Shred collab.
Yeah.
But I do plan to be more active and maybe share more with the audience or the community that I've built for myself. I want to give back. You know, I'm very grateful because I'm just grateful because it's a nice thing to have, you know, and it's part of why, you know, I talked to you about that dark place I was in. It was mainly because there was a missing connection between me and the fans, and YouTube is a platform to bring that closer. So I definitely plan on giving back, you know, like the licks, the lessons, tabs. So that's the main thing. And, you know, if someone released a song that I liked, I might cover it.
I see. Did you get any requests from people asking you, like, I want, teach me sensei?
Yeah, I did.
How did you react to those? Are you like in contact with some people? Are they asking you some tips, you know, or kind of short lessons? Are you planning to work more on that?
I did get a lot of lesson requests, and I'm planning like setting that up for sure. And what I got even more than lesson requests, it was people asking me to transcribe like this song for them and this solo for them that they can't really learn. But I never did any of that.
Okay. Yeah. So YouTube, although it's not very recent, but it is recently growing fast. Your channel is growing. You have more output there. You have a lot to share. You have a diversity in the stuff you share. So you're self-playing guitar, some other tracks you're covering, some mixes of things. You have another video, like how did you do the cover of the Shred collab, some explanation of the methods and your techniques and all that. So people watching could learn a bit also from how do you do those things and how do you achieve some things with playing on the instrument. Besides recording and releasing, do you have specific goals in the future, like, or on the short-term future, besides recording and releasing what you record?
Honestly, I'm not really thinking of anything other than, you know, you need to understand something that Frontal, we've been sitting on it for the past around 4 to 5 years. So as special as it is to normally share music with fans, it's even more exciting right now because it's been so long that I've been sitting on this work that I personally think is my best so far. So my whole focus has been on this for now, you know.
Yeah.
As big plans, I don't have any for the time being. Of course, I plan to tour for Frontal, and we might like start to noodle around and decide what the third album is going to be about. That's as far as it goes, and of course, growing my YouTube channel even further, hopefully. Those are mainly the plans, yeah.
Okay, so the whole focus now is the next album, is the release of the next album. Do you have any other I'm not going to talk too much about your personal life, this is not the goal here, but do you have a job that you do, on a main other in unrelated job that you have, or you invest most of the time in the music you do, right?
My time, yeah, is music production, lesson, and YouTube.
Okay. Do you have, if you have any other links, we will add them to the video at the end, or YouTube later. If you have a website, if you have any other information you'd like to share, we'll add that. From my side, I do always have more questions, but I'll leave it to you. Do you have anything you'd like to say to the people watching us?
I wanted to say, first of all, thank you for having me. It's been really, really fun. And I want to say thank you, everyone, for watching. And I hope that I can keep making interesting content for the new followers and for the old ones. And that's pretty much all.
Okay, I have a closing question for you. It was on the chat. One last question on the chat, kind of out of scope but still doable question. Did you cover Maroon 5?
Yep, I did.
And the question is, why the hell?
That's the question. It was like, I don't know. I had listened to it. I thought it would be cool to cover it on the spot. I did like a guitar arrangement of it. I didn't cover it as it is. I did a little guitar arrangement of it, kind of Mateus Asato style playing.
Okay.
And it was fun for me. So I did.
Okay.
Who asked?
Jason Mardini. Okay. So for me, we reached the end of our talk. I'd like to thank you, Alain, for this conversation. It was fun. It was interesting to get a bit of an insight on how's the process going for releasing an album, recording, releasing a next album, working on different projects, and a bit of inside information on how do you cover in 4 days an impossible track. How do you get the tone of several artists, several other guitar players. At the end of this, I have one small plug for those. We did mention that you have a kinky relation with the guitar, but we do have also a plug here. We have those Lab Metal shirts. They are available on our website, labmetal.com, for those who are interested. You can find them there. And this is the same shirt I'm wearing now, if somebody would like to support us. We'd like to thank everyone watching us. We'd like to thank everyone following this live. And whoever missed this video is going to also be able to see it on YouTube. We're going to compile this and upload it on our YouTube channel soon. So stay tuned. Thank you all for watching. Thank you, Alain, again for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you again next week with another Talking Music. Ciao.
Oh, bye, guys. Bye.